Max Schiller was a German philosopher known for his work in ethics and philosophy and anthropology. He developed the psychological method and is one of the main founders of modern psychology today. And what did he talk about? Max Schiller said, quote, existential envy, which is directed against the other person's very nature, is the strongest source of resentment. It is as if it whispers continually, I can forgive everything, but not that you are what you are, that I am not what you are, indeed, that I am not you. This form of envy strips the opponent of his very existence, for the existence as such is felt to be a pressure, a reproach, and an unbearable humiliation. In the lives of great men, there are always critical periods of instability in which they are alternatively envy and try to love those whose merits they cannot but esteem. Only gradually, one of these attitudes will predominate. Here lies the meaning of Goethe's reflection that against another's great merits, there is no remedy but love. Goethe had it right, and this is what it comes down to. Of everything I've learned, we'll go back to your calls, existential envy drives everything. Back when I was 20 years old, I was about as good looking as it gets. And I could have the most beautiful girlfriends out there. Models, professional cheerleaders, you name it, I've dated them all. Showgirls. Then I got into politics and finally the Lord didn't care about myself. Didn't work out for 15 years, turned into a job at the Hut. It's been a slow process getting back to the way I used to look. Take a long time. But I'm losing weight, as people can see. The point is that I would have these incredibly gorgeous girlfriends, and then they would get mad when I worked out so much out of six-pack stomach, saying, I don't want you looking better than me. And it's a more modern phenomenon as existential envy gets worse, that women especially don't want a mate that is smart and intelligent and dynamic and successful. They want a mate. I'm going to skip this network break. This is so important. That they feel better than because they have a low self-esteem. And failed societies have a predominance of existential envy. And the government and the media plays off of this, the classism, the statism, the racism, to where people are so upset that they will politically be the slaves of the Democratic Party and do whatever they say, turn in their guns, have checkpoints in their neighborhoods, accept Obamacare that's a giant screw job, because misery loves company. And just to imagine success and imagine being a good person is just too much, because they hate all the people that are charming, that are good looking. And I experienced that. I wasn't bragging when I said I was super good looking and, had all these gorgeous girlfriends, which, by the way, wasn't fun at the end of the day because they were so empty. It was the experience of wondering why so many people disliked me because I was good looking and because I was charming and because I was nice. Now, I was always popular and I always had a great time. And I would run into people that were successful and who loved and admired those that were better looking than them or smarter than them. Because on the scale of 1 to 10, I was nothing. That's why I've been successful being around rich and powerful people, not that I've even tried to be around them, is because I don't envy them. And I don't hate them because they're successful. And I'm not fake. And I'm real. And I can admire someone who's a rocket scientist. Or I can admire someone who's a better comic than I am. I can admire a man who's more manly and good looking than I am and looks like a GQ model and who has an incredibly gorgeous, fitness model girlfriend. Because I admire beautiful, smart humans and the human species. And subconsciously, I imagine my grandchildren being with their grandchildren as adults and colonizing space together. I admire. I mean, it'd be like going to a horse show and seeing beautiful horses and being mad that one horse was more beautiful or strong than the other. It gives strength to the entire species of the horse. And so if you want to know the secret of success, it's don't be an envious little wicked weirdo. I can't tell you how many people that I saw had some talent or were smart or had an eye for news that I would try to elevate, who would then immediately try to destroy me, make stuff up about me, lie about me, and just go completely nuts. But it was existential envy, believing that I had to be destroyed so that they could rise. And they were trying to be, quote, media stars, not to defeat the enemy, but to be stars, to be egomaniacs. And that's why none of them last. Because they're not doing it for the love of liberty, for the love of the truth. They're not doing it to build others up. I can't tell you how many countless guests and other talk show hosts and authors and researchers that I've had on this show who literally later say, you need me. That's why you have me on. You're using me. You're posting my articles when I make somebody famous or successful. And then later they learn they're nobody after I quit promoting them, which is sad. But they literally can't imagine someone trying to build them up. We have more listeners. We have the ratings from our stations that come in live time now, about many of them. We have the ratings off the internet live time. You know what gets the listeners? Me. You know what people want to hear? Alex Jones. I don't have all these guests and people up here because I'm just trying to get ratings and listeners. I'm getting them up here because I like to talk to them. I want to pick their brain. I want to build them up. I want to point out how smart they are. And so many of these existential envy weirdos think I'm weak and that I'm trying to screw them over because they can't imagine that someone would try to build humanity up and be strong. I admire a man who has a knockout, gorgeous wife and who has great kids and is successful and can hold it together and to see their kids graduate from college and be honorable. Even if a war is a fraud and a lie, I can admire somebody that serves 4 or 5 tours and goes through living hell and keeps it together. I'm not intimidated by men that are tougher than me. I'm not intimidated by artists that can paint a better painting than I admire them. I fancy humans. I fancy the species. I want to build people up. I don't get jealous. I don't get envious. Now, there's territorialism and people are trying to run me over and dominate me. Then I stand up against them. But it's because of the principle. So I want to read Max Schiller's, one of the founders of psychology's quote on what drives everything. And what the system wants us to be: base, dumbed down, petty, narcissistic, sociopathoids, artificially created sociopaths is what the system's going for. Because if you won't stand up for anybody around you, no one's going to stand up for you. All these sociopaths and narcissists think they're getting ahead in the world because they don't care about anybody and they're screwing everyone, and they think that's a real smart having an attitude. No, that's how you die alone. That's how you die without honor. Honor is knowing humanity's fallen and knowing you're fallen, but reaching for your higher angels, reaching for the stars, doing what's right, trying to build other people up. I don't get up here and brag about how I've been successful or how I understand how things work because it's about my ego. It's about telling people we know where the good water well is versus the poison well. We know the paradigm. We know how the system works. We've decoded it. It's hiding in plain view. We do have the answers. The answer's you waking up and taking action. The answer's you getting back to what the founding fathers were into. Invention, trailblazing, being honorable, being strong, being tough, being real. The most valuable thing is your name, is your honor. That's why the system tries to dishonor me all day and say I'm dishonorable and say I'm not real and say I'm a fraud because they got my phones tapped. They got my police records from the time I was 12 years old. They know full well how real I am, and that's what they don't like. They don't like bona fides, ladies and gentlemen. And let me tell you what really successful people who aren't evil, what they're looking for. They're looking for a few good men and women who are honorable, who are savvy, who are strong, who are ready to stand up for justice, who are ready to stand up for freedom, and who value being real and who value other people's success just as much or more as their own. Existential envy is our enemy. And I will read to you again the definition of it by the man who invented the term. Existential envy, which is directed against the other person's very nature, is the strongest source of resentment. It is as if it whispers continually, I can forgive everything, but not that you are. That you are what you are, that I am not what you are. Indeed, that I am not you. This form of envy strips the opponent of their very existence, dehumanized. For this existence as such is felt to be a pressure, a reproach, an unbearable humiliation. In the lives of great men, there are always critical periods of instability in which they alternatively envy and try to love those whose merits they cannot but esteem. Only gradually, one of these attitudes will predominate. Here lies the meaning of Goethe's reflection that against another's great merits, there is no remedy but love. That's right. And I sort of noticed this as a child. If there was somebody winning the football game that we were playing, or someone that could draw better, or someone who could do better math, or some girl that was, you know, more cute than somebody else's girlfriend, they would always announce, yeah, but their parents are getting divorced, and you know, she's got eczema, or she's a loser, or no. I would always hear losers announce the imminent downfall of anyone who was more successful than them. Always announce how the person had failed and how they had won. Instead of just going, wow, that person can really play football, or wow, that girl's really beautiful, or wow, great, man, how do you do math like that? Well, where is the shared celebration like life is a giant party? Out under the trees in the forest, a big feast with everybody dancing around, celebrating. Somebody's not a good dancer, they fall on their butt in front of everyone. Everybody laughs lovingly while they're the greatest dancer of the night for getting up there, up on the table with their big cup of ale and dancing for humanity. Instead of just sitting around, and that's why I talked about this today, and we're going to break, come back with your calls. The reason I brought up existential envy today is because if you look at the globalist, as above, so below, to use their alchemist maxim, it's the New World Order that's envious. It's the unhappy royal queens and kings 170 years ago, 160 years ago, mad at the beautiful maidens, mad at the strong knights and soldiers and shipbuilders and captains and sailors. Mad that they were living, they were humanity, they were strength, they were competition, not the degraded, inbred failure. And so they developed science to make themselves God and to make us ugly in their existential envy. And that's why they have human sacrifice of the commoners, and why they try to dumb us down, every sick, inbred elite that comes to power, because they have total existential envy of whoever is more beautiful than them. And we see this in all the fairy tales. Snow White is just a rewrite of a bunch of German fairy tales, where the queen is angry at the young maiden who's more beautiful than her. Anybody that's lived knows how evil some women get if they don't mature when they get older, and how obsessed and vain and wicked they become because they have existential envy of other women and young men as well, because they don't think they can have them anymore. Or the existential envy that you see manifesting at every level of society. That's why they put cancer viruses in our vaccine and fluoride in our water, so they can sit back and laugh and know that they literally stunted us. But even through our stunted haze, we have seen beyond the mountaintops. There's nothing more stunted than trying to hold people back. You are failures, you are damned to hell, and you know it. And I declare the victory of humanity through God's promise against your blasphemy against humanity.
The Empire.